guys, how are you? It's Miss Bodek here. Welcome to my in-home studio. Today we're going to take our instrumental class to the next level, and we're going to go ahead and refresh our brains and learn a little bit more about lines and spaces today. So I'm going to give you a couple little things first. I'm going to show you how to actually write out a note, because you're going to be using that after this lesson in some worksheets I'm going to give you guys for some extra practice. So I'm going to go ahead right now, and I'm going to just give you a small mini micro lesson on how to draw out a note. So we have ourselves here the notes that have a head and they have a tail. Whatever way you want to go, either way they have a circle for a head, and then they have a stand or a tail, whatever way you want to say it. It goes either up or it goes down. So let me show you how to draw the one with the stem going up. So you're just going to go ahead and take a pencil. You can go ahead and also do this with me if you want to take a piece of paper and kind of just draw a few out just as you're going along. That'd be great. So here we go. There's my circle. That's the head of the note. And then you're going to go take a line straight up to the sky. As you can see, this one goes up. And then we're going to make the next one, which the stem is going to go down. So you're going to start with another circle. Maybe a higher circle than your last circle, okay? And then we're going to make the stem go down, the tail go down, so we're just going to draw a line downward, as you can tell, like that, all right? Two different kind of ways to write out. Again, this is called notation, writing out the notes, drawing it out, physically putting that to paper and pencil. All right, good, fantastic, let's go on. So, I'm going to erase these guys now because we're going to go into our lines and our spaces. Again, this should not be too new for anybody because we've been talking about this stuff for quite a long time. We're going to eventually get ourselves to the D major scale so that we can be refreshed, remember, and also get to see Miss Bodek play a little bit. So, all right, the staff. If you go like this with your hands, give me two hands coming together. Say the staff. Good. Step one done. Next part, we have how many lines? 5 lines. So you can put 5 fingers up in the air. And then our spaces, 4 spaces. All right, so here we go. I want you to go ahead and take your staff. You have 5 lines. You have 4 spaces. Okay, let's see if we can do that again, maybe a little bit faster. The staff, 5 lines, 4 spaces. All right, your turn. Let's get a little bit faster. Here we go. Ready? And the staff, 5 lines, 4 spaces. Now, if you want to go ahead and mix that up, go see if you can tongue-tie yourself up into the 5 lines, 4 spaces, and the staff, and figure that out that way. You're more than welcome to, because I know on me, I like to do a little bit quick. The staff, 5 lines, 4 spaces. So if you want to try that out on your own, go ahead. If not, let's move on. So now that we know that we have 5 lines and how many spaces? 4 spaces. I have it already here on my board for you. The ones over here that are in black are the lines because it matches across the board. In the middle, where the white spaces are, is the space numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 for the space, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the lines. Now, don't forget, every time we start looking at notes, anytime that we're reading notes, anytime that we're figuring out what note letter that note is, we need to always count from the bottom to the top. How do we count? From the bottom to the top. Right. All right, so we start with number 1 at the bottom, 2, 3, 4, 5 going up. Perfect. All right. Think we're good. We're good with the lines and spaces. Now, we are going to go ahead and figure out what kind of notes we got in these lines and spaces. So, what we're going to do is that we're going to go ahead and I'm going to draw out us 2 staffs. And I'm sorry, they're not that great, but it's the best Miss Bodek can do. I'm going to do them on both sides so that we can see it separated before we go ahead and put everybody up on that big staff up at the top. All right, so I'm going to come over here and say lines. And I apologize if you can't read that. got like the thin part of my marker. And then you've got spaces. Now, remember how we figured out the wording and how we know what the notes are and where they live. Let's start with the lines first, okay? Because this one's kind of easy for everybody. So again, don't forget, this line start from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Spaces start in the first 2 lines. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Got a little funky there. All right, so start with the lines. First line, go ahead and put your hand down to your belly because it's going to be the first lowest line that we've got. Say E, every. All right, so our E is on the bottom first line, and I'm going to spell out every so you can see. Take your next line up, and you're going to the second line, say G, good. Now go to the next line up. Our third line is B, boy. Our fourth line up from that is going to be D, does. And last but not least, the top number 5 is going to be F for fine. Fine on 5. All right? Perfect. So we have every, good, boy, does, fine. These are the lines, okay? So if you want to go over, pause my video for a second and just go over every good, boy, does, fine. These are the lines. Go ahead. If not, let's jump into next part, which is the spaces. All right, so my very first space is going to be F. Now, how do I know that my first space is going to be F? Because like I said before, we are always moving up the scale. We are always going to repeat the numbers. I'm sorry, not the numbers, the letters. And because we have only 7 letters in our musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And once you get to that G, you just repeat. Go back to the beginning. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So at any point in time, you're not sure. If you know where one of those notes are, you can just go up or you can work backwards. It's like steps. You step up or you step back. So good. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with my F in my first space. The next one with space up will be the second space. So we'll say A. Because if a G is over here, you go up one, we go into the space, it would be A. Next space up, the third space is C. And then last but not least, the space 4 is letter E. Perfect. So you have the word face. So if you need some extra work on this and some extra thinking about it, how am I going to remember this? Go ahead and say space, face, space, face, space, face. And repeat that as much as you need to. Face, space. Did that backwards. Space, face, F-A-C-E, face, space, F-A-C-E, face, space. Got it. Good. All right. Let's move on now real quick to our next section here. We are going to do a D major scale. And all of my third graders know exactly what I mean when we talk about a D major scale because we have been working on that before we left school on our violins. So this is why it's so important to know where our notes are on the lines and the spaces so that we can see it, we can hear it, and we can know how to play it. So let's go ahead and start. Like I said, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's all we got. First things first, something I hope that will just stick in our brains. The first note that lives below the staff, below the first line, is and always will be letter D. Now I have a little note here. I made it kind of easy for myself to show you the D major scale. So I'm going to take this D. This D has a 0 on the top because in violin, what does that 0 mean when it's on top of that D? It is going to be the open string on our violin, our open string D. So you always see that 0, you know it's going to be open string. All right, so I'm going to click that guy up there. After D comes what letter in the alphabet? E. So we're just going to roll right up on the lines and the spaces. So now our E was on our first line. Let's go to the first space. First space is letter F. And if you remember this little guy next to it, because of D major, we have to use these little guys in the corner. Remember, they're called sharps. Just makes that F a little bit higher. It would be number 2 on our violin D string. We're going to put F sharp on the board. All right, let's keep rolling. My next one is, you got it, G. After G, remember we have to go back to the beginning, so it would be letter A. Again, a 0, which means it would be what string? Open string A. Fantastic. Good. So I'm going to put that up on my board. And then we're going to letter B. Yep, so you got this. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You got it. So you know what the next part is. Don't forget, little thing. Let me show you. The third line up for letter B, we have noticed something changed. It's the stems. When you get past that open A, that B starts bringing down the tails, bringing down the stems. So anyone after A, going up is going to have down stems, and anyone before A will have stems going up. I hope I said that right. After A is down, before A is up. All right, let's quickly finish this up. After D is C, again another C sharp, because we need it a little bit higher. And last but not least, we have the D on the A string. So there we go. We have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. That is your D major scale. My next wonderful word of the day is called an octave. Now, what an octave is it's taking not 1, not 2, not 3, but 8 notes going up the scale from and ending on the same note is called an octave. There are 8 notes in an octave. How many? 8. Wonderful. So you see that D down here and the D up here are your points. And everything in between is just going to go up to that top D. All right? Good? Fantastic. So now that we have ourselves our D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D onto our lines and our spaces, you remember 1, E, line 2, G, line 3, B, line 4, D, line 5 is F, but we're not really using F because the D major scale is only going from D to D, but it would still be something. If you saw a note up here, you'd have to count up after D. D, E would be the 4th space, F would be the 5th line, okay? So, now that we did that, let's get into hearing it, okay? Let's hear our D major scale. All right, I'm going to play it out for you real quick on my keyboard here. So I'm just going to start right down here if you want to follow along. We've got D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. My tidbit, always know where D, always know where A is. Go ahead now for the last part. We made it. We've gotten through our lines and spaces. We've also got through my D major scale. Now it's time for Ms. Bodett to give you a little extra performance. And I'm just going to give you the scale, the D major scale, from the bottom all the way to the top, and I'm going to repeat it all the way back down to the bottom. All right, so follow along with my notes. Again, open D. I'm going to go my D. My E will be my first finger, second finger, third finger, open A, first finger, second finger, and then I'm going to end on the third finger. Come back down. Here we go. And back down. I hope you enjoyed this small lesson. Please be mindful and make sure that you do help me out with those worksheets so I can see that you guys have been helping me out and figuring out your lines and spaces. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.